Here's the deal, Pops. Folks like to lease cars. There are
Yes.
some red flags you need to watch out for. We're going to run through 3 of them. We've got a real lease deal here. But before we go through the specifics, because leases are complex, let's just hit them. What are the 3 red flags you got to watch out for on a lease deal?
Well, first things first, you need to know what the market conditions are and what the factory incentives are on leases. So you need to do your due diligence. This particular lease that we're going to look at was, according to the gentleman, a $71,000 MSRP Grand Cherokee L Summit, and he got a $4,000 discount, which is a little more than half of what he probably should have.
Number 1, you need to know what reasonable discounts are on lease deals, because just like when you're financing a purchase, you can negotiate the out the door price. So number 1 is market conditions. What's number 2? We're just running through them right now.
Number 2, cash down. Realistically, on a lease, you should never put cash down.
All right. Number 3.
If you have a trade allowance, you need to do due diligence as to what your trade is really worth to make sure that they're offering enough.
All right. So here's the deal. We'll go through this in a second, but a lot of people get interested in leases, Dad, because the monthly payment's attractive. They see a monthly payment. They see an ad. It says monthly. But all the fundamentals still apply. And unfortunately, for this community member who found CarEdge a little bit too late.
Yeah.
These 3 things, they were big red flags that stood out on the lease contract. So let's start with number 1. You mentioned it. It's a $71,000 MSRP Jeep.
Yes.
We've been seeing those get discounted 10, 12, 15%.
At least 10%. And so he got a $4,000 discount. So he was probably about $3,000 less on his discount than he should have been. Then he had a trade.
Before the trade, can you explain? Let's just stick on this for a second. You can negotiate the sales price or the out the door price on a lease. Explain that really quickly.
Well, that's what you need to negotiate on a lease is the selling price. What is the discount going to be on the selling price? You're not the one buying the vehicle. The vehicle is being sold to the lease company, but you determine how much the lease company is paying for it, not the dealer. You. So that becomes part of the negotiation. What's the discount? What's the selling price going to be? What are the fees going to be associated with the selling price when it gets sold to the lease company? They're buying it for your benefit, and to protect your interest, you need to negotiate the best price that the lease company can pay for that vehicle.
All right, so I understand why a lot of people get confused about leasing, because all right, this is like, so I'm negotiating for them. The fundamental here, the red flag, the thing not to do would be they just show you the lease payment and you say no, out the door price. You still negotiate the out the door price. Before you even talk about leasing or financing, you negotiate the out the door price. The out the door price is, as you've always said, if you had to stroke a check to buy the thing right there.
If you knew what a check was.
Yeah. If you had to Venmo for the thing right there in that moment. All the sales price of the vehicle plus all taxes and all fees, that's your out the door price, and you negotiate the same thing. And then after you've gotten to a fair out the door price, which in this case for this Jeep probably would have been about a $7,000 dealer discount.
Yes.
Then you would say, oh, actually, I'm interested in leasing it. What lease incentives are there?
Exactly.
All right, so that's number 1. Number 2, you mentioned, Dad, was putting cash down.
Yes.
Why is that a red flag on a lease?
Because all you're doing is lowering the cost to the lease company to lower your payment. It's if that vehicle gets totaled, you're not getting that money back. That money's gone. Okay, that's just kissing that money away to buy a cheaper payment. So I put 0 down when I lease. You could put down your taxes and fees, like your registration fees, things like that. But other than that, you shouldn't be putting any cash down on a lease.
All right. So the reason you put no money down on a lease is because that's not your money. The moment you put it down on that lease, the car gets told it's the financial institution, the leasing company's money, no longer yours. Why do that? Why let them sit with that?
Exactly.
Versus yours? You're exposed to potential risk. Plus, you're not investing it or doing whatever you want with it. All right, the third thing you mentioned, Ed, there's a trade-in on this lease deal, and I can imagine a lot of people get confused about this. They see the monthly payment.
Yes.
They think, oh, I can put some money down to get the monthly payment even lower.
Yes.
Oh, but I also have my XYZ car, so I'm just going to trade it in too. That factors into your lease payment, obviously, because you reduce the capitalized cost. But why is this a red flag?
Or in this case, it can raise your capitalized cost. Well, it's a red flag because you need to do your due diligence to know what your trade is really worth. In this particular case, the gentleman had a 2022 Ford Expedition. I don't know exactly what type of Expedition he had, but he got a trade-in value of $65,500. Well, unfortunately, he still owed almost $72,000. There was $7,000 of negative equity that he was rolling into his lease. Now, it's a 39-month lease, and that's going to impact the payments about $30 for every $1,000 worth of negative equity rolled in. So about $210 of his monthly payment is just going to take care of that negative balance on that Expedition. Now, what we don't know, because he didn't take it to Carvana or CarMax or shop CarEdge.com/sell, so he could see what his vehicle might be worth and to see what their offer was in comparison to what it might be worth. So he didn't do his due diligence. We don't know if he got the proper trade amount, and perhaps he didn't. Maybe the vehicle is really worth $70,000. Then there's only $2,000 worth of negative equity. That's a big swing.
Yeah, it really is. All right, so if you are interested in leasing, obviously these 3 red flags are things to look out for. We also have a guide that you wrote. Thank you, Pops. Back on the CarEdge website, just Google search CarEdge.com/leasing. You'll find all of our materials on this because it's confusing, Dad. It really is.
It is. Can I give you a 4th red flag on this lease? Anytime you're looking to lease a Jeep and the payment is $1,153.11 for 39 months, that's a red flag. That's a Jeep, ladies. You're just in lease payments and cash down. In this particular case, $48,213 is what this gentleman's going to spend over the 39-month life of this lease. I don't know, for almost 50 grand. I think he might have been better off buying it.
All right, and work with our coaches, CarEdge.com. You can work with all of our car coaches who will help you navigate and negotiate your lease. Because again, it is confusing. 3 red flags. Now you know them. Don't fall for similar mistakes.
Don't ask us if you got a good deal.
Let us help you get the good
Work
deal.
with us before you do the deal so we can assure you that you got a good deal.